With over 3 million COVID-19 cases in the United States, schools across the country are stumbling to safely reopen their doors. President Donald Trump, on the other hand, is pressurizing the governors to open schools, insisting that students must return to the classrooms for in-person learning. The president has threatened to cut off funding to schools that do not open in the fall, with a warning that their funding may be cut off if they are not reopened by November. Taking aim at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the president also criticized the CDC's recommendations for reopening schools as being too expensive and impractical. Following President Trump's saying that students must return to the classrooms for in-person learning, top federal health and education officials are now working on new guidance for the reopening of schools in the fall.
We're prepared to work with each school, each jurisdiction, to help them use the different strategies that we propose that help do this safely, so they come up with the optimal strategy for those schools. I think it's critical, and it would be personally very disappointing to me, and I know my agency, if we saw that individuals were using these guidelines as a rationale for not reopening our schools.
Donald Trump has also accused the Democrats of wanting to keep the schools shut for political reasons. Meanwhile, the New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, has blasted President Donald Trump for pressurizing the state officials to reopen the schools this fall, saying that the federal government does not have.
Yeah, so there is this controversy now on reopening schools amid this coronavirus pandemic. And of course, we have heard that Harvard and Massachusetts Institute of Technology are now suing President Trump, trying to prevent foreign students from being stripped of their visas. Now, this announcement about the visas being stripped from foreign students does throw more than 1 million international students on US visas into uncertainty. And the school year is set to begin in just weeks. The pandemic, of course, has thrown the education sector into the online world. And that shift now may mean that many international students might be kicked out of the country. This, of course, comes as university leaders have come out and schools have come out and said that the policy is reckless as well as cruel. And they are saying that this is a political stunt. There is a thought process that the White House is pushing for schools to reopen, and that this, reversal of foreign students to have their visas is another push, another pressure for schools to go ahead with reopening. Now, this, of course, comes as coronavirus cases are soaring in the United States, more than 3 million cases in the country. And today, in fact, we set a new daily record. 60,000 cases were recorded in just one day. Yeah, so President Trump, as you mentioned, has threatened to take away school funding if they do not push ahead with reopening plans. Of course, most of the schools are funded by the state, but the federal government does provide some additional cost as well to help them run. There are some states in particular that are staying in line with President Trump's wishes. That is Florida. Florida has decided that they are going to reopen next month. Of course, that is they have adhered to the pressure from President Trump. Of course, they want to kickstart their economy. And the reasoning for this is that President Trump says that if people go back to school, it will begin that resurgence of the economy that has been absolutely shattered by COVID-19. Many teachers, though, have come out and said that they fear going back to work. So many of the teachers in Florida in particular say they now have to choose between their jobs and getting revenue or risking their lives in the work environment. So there is this tricky situation now where people are sort of left in limbo. They're not sure exactly what the guidelines are going to come up with when they are reviewed next week of how you can safely reopen schools. Of course, the education sector has been shattered by